What's going on YouTube? So this generation of the Chevy Traverse has seen a lot of success, and it actually just had its best ever sales last year.
Which is why we were very excited to spend a week with this model to share what's new for 2026 and our impressions after living with it.
So, is this the family three-row that you should put in your driveway? Well, let's go ahead and find out. Like always, let's kick things off with a quick spec dump. So under the hood of every Traverse is a 2.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine making 328 horsepower. It's paired to an 8-speed automatic transmission, and with all-wheel drive, the combined fuel economy is 21 mpg.
Now the base price of the Traverse is around $41,000, and if you're looking to buy one or any vehicle, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes to get the best price. Now of course we're going to take it out for a spin to show you the performance of this, as well as discuss things like our real-world experienced fuel economy. But first, we need to go ahead and shut up the hood and take a look at the exterior and interior and discuss some of those 2026 changes.
Now, like I mentioned at the introduction, this just had its best sales ever, and I think that really has a lot to do with the overall design of this vehicle. Since this redesign, everyone has really been complimenting this product, and even on its third model year, it really got a lot of attention, especially when you choose this trim level. So this is the RS trim level. It's got the sportiest overall look. You'll notice the full blacked out grille with the mesh design, the blacked out bow tie logo, and blacked out down on the lower fascia. You can also get more chrome, especially if you choose that high country trim. Now, as far as the lighting, it's also pretty upscale. You have projector LED headlights standard on every single version of the Traverse. And then up here at the top, you have your turn signal indicator and daytime running light. It's got the dynamic design when you choose the RS or the high country. And as we move to the back, it continues with a pretty sporty look for a mid-size three-row.
Absolutely, and let's go ahead and break down some of the individual design touches. So we have a spoiler up here at the top, a rear window wiper. All of this is going to be blacked out, and let's take a look at our taillights, because you have some very premium lighting on this model, and that's actually standard across the board. So you have the LED brake light, the LED turn signal, and then you actually have an LED reverse light down here at the bottom. I like that everything is LED. Also, one of the things that I really like is the fact that every Traverse gets quad exhaust outlets, not just the RS, and as far as your tow capacity, that comes in at 5,000 pounds.
Now, adding to the style factor is the fact that the Traverse can go up to 22-inch alloys. That's what we have today, and that is very, very large for this segment of vehicle. RS and High Country get this. It's a gloss black finish. I think it looks very nice overall. You also have a gloss black finish around your wheel arches and up here on your mirrors. And as far as what you get on board, you have standard heating and blind spot monitoring. You also get power folding and auto dimming on the driver's side for your upper end examples.
Now at the side of the Traverse, one of the things about this vehicle is that it is absolutely massive for the segment. 204.5 inches in overall length, which really means it's about 5 inches longer than most of its main rivals. And we'll talk about overall interior space a little bit later on in this video. But as far as design, we do have some nice elements going through here, blacked out roof rails. And as far as colors, we do have two 2026 new colors. Polar white and sandstone gray are now added to the lineup. When it comes to your active safety features as well, Chevy is including all of those as standard equipment. That will even include things like adaptive cruise control. And furthermore, if you choose an RS or a high country, you get standard Super Cruise. And that has worked absolutely flawlessly this week. It allows for hands-free driving, which I think is absolutely great for a family vehicle like this. But guys, there's a lot to talk about on the inside and our impressions after living with it. But first, if you're new here, we're brothers and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We started young, and since then we've reviewed over 2,000 cars at every price point.
No matter what you're looking for, from sound level readings to cargo measurements, we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family.
Let's learn a lot and have some fun with all the latest cars. All right, on to the inside. First, here's our key fob. It's your typical Chevy key fob. Smart entry and remote start are both standard equipment. Getting inside, press the silver button there. That will unlock the door and fold the mirrors outward. And then taking a look inside the interior, of course, this was recently redesigned, so it already has really all the latest and greatest Chevy design language. And let's start off by talking about the seats. So standard on the Traverse with your LT is a cloth seat. However, most of the trims will come with a real leather, including this RS trim. We have the perforated design, and you can see that we have red accent stitching and the embroidering up there in the headrest. Just be aware that black's the only color option you can get on this trim level. And honestly, most of the trim levels are locked into just black or maybe a gray option, but there's not really a wide color variety available on the Traverse. As far as the seats are concerned, you have power seats on all but the base model. We've got 4-way lumbar support, and then your High Country and RS also have memory seats. Let's climb on inside. Now we'll get into the rest of the cabin materials. Starting with the door trim, you have a leatherette covering all across the armrest, soft touch plastic along the top, and then to go along with the red accenting in the seats, you have a lot of like a red faux carbon fiber trim inside of the door trim as well as across the dashboard. We also have a leatherette across the upper part here that is padded, and then it will be padded along the center console with some piano black trim. Overall, the interior is not going to be incredibly luxurious, even on a top trim like this RS, compared to some of the competition like a Palisade, for example. Now we'll fire it up with the push button start. Jumping into some individual features and details, we'll begin with the gauge cluster. We have the 11-inch full digital cluster. This is standard equipment on every version, and you can switch between several different designs, including the full screen map, which I know is pretty popular. Just be aware you cannot get a head-up display on the Traverse. In General Motors world, they require you get the Acadia if you want that. Now, pulling back to the steering wheel, we've got the nice flat bottom look here for the RS. The top two trims actually have power adjustment, and most of the trims come with steering wheel heating as well. Now, you buy one of these big SUVs because you want big storage. Let's check out what we've got. Well, you're going to see a generously sized center console. We actually have 21 donuts, which definitely passes the donut test and gets close to hitting our maximum, which is 2 dozen donuts. And we have a lot more storage beyond that. So you've got a little bit there. You get your 2 cup holders. You have a standard wireless phone charging pad on every version. And then you have this absolutely massive center pass-through. This is very flexible for whatever you need to store there. And that's because they're taking up absolutely no space with the shifter. It's up here on the column. Just pull down for drive. You have paddle shifters on the steering wheel. Go up for reverse. And when you do, another very nice standard feature on the Traverse is the fact you have a 360 camera on all trims. You get the nice overhead view as well as active trajectory and parking sensors. Our mirrors tilt down and reverse on this trim level as well. Now moving into the climate controls next, 3-zone automatic climate is on all models. You have physical controls here to adjust the temperature, or you can also do some of the functions inside of the display if you prefer that. Also, you'll see this is where we control our heated and ventilated seats. Heated seats are standard on all models. Ventilated seats are standard on RS and High Country trims. Implanted inside of the display is a volume knob for your different audio systems. As you'd expect on our RS trim, we have the Bose 10-speaker sound system. Let's go ahead and give it a sample. Overall sound quality is fine. It certainly fills up the cabin well. It's just not quite as refined as some of the best sound systems in the segment. All right, now let's move to the technology. This is something that is very refined. So first of all, with the display, this is 17.7 inches. So it remains one of the largest displays you can get in the entire segment. And this is standard on all versions of the Traverse, even the base model. Now, as far as the functions that you're going to want, you have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. We've had no difficulty pairing these automatically every single time. You also have built-in Google applications such as Google Maps. Up top on our loaded example, we've got the auto-dimming mirror with the digital camera rear view system. And then Chevy does offer a panoramic sunroof across all trims of the Traverse, but it is an extra charge option. As you can see, as we Slide back the sunshade here very slowly. This is a large piece of glass, and the front panel of the sunroof does open up.
All right, and let's dive into the Traverse's rear seat area and talk about how much space you're going to get first and foremost. And by the way, it is a lot, spoiler alert. So 41.5 inches of legroom is what you're sitting at, and 39.9 inches of headroom. Those are very good space figures for this segment. That places it in the very upper end of the segment in terms of rear seat room, that is for sure. And I brought along the official Car Confections ruler so we can kind of see what this looks like in real life. This seat is adjusted to Drew, who's 5'8". I'm 5'9", and we are looking at a very solid 10 inches of additional knee room. That's very good. And then we also have room for my feet to slide up underneath of the seat. Speaking of the seats, they slide forward and back a good distance, and they also do have the ability to recline a decent distance as well. Now, what you're looking at right now is the captain's chair arrangement. That's actually standard on every single Traverse. You can option on bench seating if you'd prefer the extra seat here in the middle, but it's just on the LT trim level. So most versions of the Traverse will be 7-passenger, or you can get one version that's 8-passenger. Now, as far as features, we have 2 cup holders up here at the very top. Down below, we have our own zone of climate we can adjust quite simply. We also have heated back seats. That's on High Country and RS trim levels. No ventilated back seats are available. And then if we flip open the this little cover here, that's a household outlet as well as 2 USB ports. There's a little storage cubby down below that. And by the way, the outlets are standard equipment. Over on the door trim, one of the things I'm disappointed is that there's not a rear window sunshade, but overall the materials are pretty good with soft touch plastic on the upper part and a leatherette through the center door trim portion. There's also quite a lot of door storage down in the bottom. All right, let's check out to the third row of the Traverse. In order to get back here, all you have to do is press this button right here, and that's going to release the seat and allow it to tilt and slide out of the way. One of the things that I love about this is the fact that you would not have to remove a child seat because the seat back does not move. I'm a new father myself, so this is definitely an appreciated feature, that's for sure. And let's go ahead and hop back into the third row. Now, in the third row itself, we are looking at some decent numbers. 32.1 inches of legroom and about 38 inches of headroom. That does place it, numerically as one of the larger options in the segment. However, I will say, compared to some of the newest competition, such as the Toyota Grand Highlander and things like the new Hyundai Palisade, that this is going to be a little bit smaller. It's not exactly class leading anymore. Namely, one of the things that I'm a little disappointed in is the thigh support. I wish they had lifted these seats a little bit further off the ground, but overall it is going to be decently comfortable. The seat is slid all the way back, so keep in mind you could slide that forward a little bit more. There are 3 seats back here in the third row, and let's talk about features. We have a cup holder on each side. We also have a USB port. And then vents are coming out of the ceiling up here at the very top, so they're kind of front and center, so they blow right at your face. I like that. No third row heating or anything along those lines. So as far as how this fits on our third row rating scale, I'm going to say that this is fit for adults. Now, walking up to the tailgate, a standard power tailgate with the hands-free ability is across the entire trim lineup for the Traverse. And let's talk about space for this model, because I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. We're looking at 23 cubic feet of space behind the third row of seats. I can easily fold the third row down by just pressing these buttons here on the side, because it is a power folding setup. And when I do that, that's going to give me 57 cubic feet of space. And then if I fold the second row down, which I can also do electronically from here in the back, that's going to give me a maximum of 97 cubic feet. Now, compared to some of the main rivals, that is going to be very good. It's actually tied for pretty much best in the entire segment with the Toyota Grand Highlander. And speaking of all the rivals that you could be looking at, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. We've looked at all the 3-row midsize SUVs on the market and ranked them in individual categories. Things like cargo space, third row, interior technology, luxury features, powertrain choices, and even value. So depending on what's most important to you, you can see the best options in each of those categories. So definitely make an informed buying decision in this hot and very competitive segment by going to our website and checking out that tool. Now, I will go ahead and scoot that seat forward a little bit more so I can get it completely flat. And now that it is completely flat, let's go ahead and get our cargo length, width, and height figures. So as far as cargo length behind Drew's 5'8" sitting position, we're looking at a very solid 90 inches. That's really where this vehicle shines because it's so big. And then behind the second row of seats, 52 inches of length. From behind the third row, 22 inches of length. As far as the opening, very impressive, 50 inches wide. Height, 32 inches tall. That's also great. And let's get our load-in height as well. The load-in height is coming in at 32 inches tall, so that's going to be a little bit on the taller side. If we lift up the floor, we have actually quite a lot of underfloor storage. This is definitely handy for things like groceries, and there is also a spare tire that is integrated underneath of the floor. Well guys, here we are behind the wheel of the Chevy Traverse. We'll be covering quite a lot, as you can see on the screen right now, but first we need to go ahead and start with a hard acceleration.
All right, that was 60 miles per hour with the Traverse. So like we talked about at the spec dump, this is available with just one engine option. It's a 2.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. It makes very healthy power figures for the class: 328 horsepower, 326 pound-feet of torque, which, like I said, is above average certainly for this segment, whether you're talking about a V6 or a turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. 0 to 60 though is 7.3 seconds, which is about average overall, just because this is a bit of a porker for the segment, a little bit heavier and longer, as we discussed, than most of the competition.
Yeah, absolutely. So this powertrain, it is a healthy number, and it's a good thing that it's a healthy number because it's not offering any other version. So a lot of the rivals now are offering some type of hybridized version that gives you more power. This is going to just be the only engine setup that you get here with the Traverse, and overall I think it's a good match. The only thing that we will say is that we've lived with this powertrain in both the Traverse and Acadia for many weeks. I mean, honestly, I think at this point like 5 or 6 times we've driven one of these for a week, and the thing that really bothers us about it is just the noise entering into the cabin. This engine sounds strained, even though, it does have really healthy power figures, enough to get this vehicle up to speed decently quickly. It just sounds like it doesn't have nearly enough power.
Yeah, compared to the competition, again, even with 2.5 turbo 4 cylinders, this one is noisier and just more unrefined sounding at all types of throttle. You don't have to hammer it down to the ground to get that kind of noise penetrating the cabin, which, doesn't feel, very luxurious for this segment and this cost. Now, as far as the other element of the powertrain, we've got an 8-speed automatic transmission. Throughout our week of testing, it's been a pretty smooth transmission. It can be a little sluggish at times, but overall, I think it fits with the powertrain pretty well.
Yeah, and as far as how it's routed to the ground, you have either front-wheel drive or available all-wheel drive. The Z71 does get a twin-clutch all-wheel drive, so it's a special version for more off-road capability. And let's talk about overall ride quality with this model. Now, like I mentioned just a little bit ago, we've lived with this Traverse. I think this will be our 3rd time of this new generation for a full week, and that really allows you to drive it over, honestly, thousands of miles, and I'm pretty impressed with the ride quality of this vehicle. They've done a great job of making the ride pretty good despite the large 22-inch wheels on the outside. That's a very large wheel size for this segment, and even despite that, it is a very good ride. When you hit a large bump in the road, you can feel some intrusion, so I wouldn't say it's like the most comfortable option in the segment, but it's definitely a solid pick still. And then if you got a smaller wheel size, I'd imagine the ride would only get much better.
Yeah, when we drove the Z71, I thought that one rode even better. But yeah, Mason's right. It's pretty commendable that they're able to get the right quality that they do out of the 22s. But of course, it's not best in class or anything. You can do better with a smaller wheel size and some of the other options in the segment.
Solid 50, well, actually it switched on me at the very end. 52.5 decibels was the sound level reading for the Traverse there. Now, we don't have to sit here and guess. We can go to carconfections.com and see all the sound level readings that we've done on this channel. We do them for every car that we review. And indeed, that does mean that it is going to be one of the quieter options in the segment, that is for sure, compared to all of its numerous rivals. Now, I do want to go ahead and talk about fuel economy as well. So what we're rated at is 22 mpg combined with front-wheel drive, or 21 mpg with all-wheel drive. We, of course, have the all-wheel drive variant. So what's the real-world experience fuel economy we got this week? Well, we drove this model 204.4 miles, and that was a mixture of city and highway driving, and what we were sitting at was 20 miles per gallon, which actually is 1 mpg lower than what the EPA is estimating this vehicle to be at. And in past Traverses and Acadias that we've been in, it actually has been sitting even lower than the 20 mpg mark. It's a pretty warm week, so I think that's helped our fuel economy, but a lot of the other models that we looked at, like the Acadia and previous Traverses, were sitting on the 18 mile per gallon mark. So really the fuel economy is kind of abysmal for this. You know, a lot of the Turbo 4s are not really saving you much in terms of fuel economy as compared to a V6 and some of the rivals. And since you'd be buying a lot of gas if you bought one of these, you might want to download Upside, a free cashback app. We routinely use Upside to save 10, 20, even 30 cents a gallon on gas in our area. It's super convenient and easy to use, and as an added bonus, Upside is offering Car Confections viewers an extra 25 cents off per gallon of gas on your first tank by scanning the QR code on the screen or by using code CarConfections25 when you sign up. There's a link in the video description as well as a pinned comment at the top of this video.
All right, slam dunk and airball time. This time they kind of connect to each other. So the slam dunk for the Traverse is all the nice standard features you get. It really has a lot of equipment and a lot of things that I think three-row shoppers are looking for standard on even the base trim levels. That is super nice for this model. That being said, on the airball side of things, as you go up the trims and you get to a pretty high price point that this occupies, and we'll talk about that in just a second, you don't get a ton extra over the lower end trim levels. It doesn't really get a lot more luxurious, and this is priced as one of the highest priced things in the segment.
And let's talk pricing. So the Traverse starts at $41,000 for the base LT model. And then, of course, as you go up the trim structure, it elevates in price. You can see all of those prices on the screen right now. Now, the model that we are looking at today is the fully loaded RS with all the options. And after a destination charge, we are sitting at $61,390 as tested today. If you're curious as to where it's manufactured, it is manufactured in Lansing, Michigan. And if you're looking to buy a Chevy Traverse or any vehicle, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. The reason you should do that is because we have a tool on our website that will connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is very useful if you plan on doing dealership negotiation. There's even things like a monthly payment tool, so if you'd like to check all of that out, you can find that on our website, carconfections.com. But buying a vehicle is about more than just the original MSRP, so let's dive into resale, reliability, and the warranty. First up, let's talk about resale value. Chevy as a brand is rated at 54.71% of estimated retained value after 5 years and 60,000 miles, and after 10 years and 120,000 miles, 20.4%. Now that is above industry average for all vehicle brands, however it is still lower than some of the Japanese rivals such as Honda, Toyota, and Mazda.
Now, Chevy also does pretty good when it comes to reliability. With our latest 2026 data, our combined reliability index indicates that Chevy is above average compared to all other vehicle makes.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about our reliability data, our resale values, or our methodology, be sure to go to carconfections.com where all of that is located. Now, when it comes to your warranty, you have a 3-year 36,000 mile basic warranty, a 5-year 60,000 mile powertrain, and you do also get 1 complimentary service visit. And guys, that's it for our week-long review of the 2026 Chevy Traverse. Hopefully you enjoyed hearing about those changes, and if you did, we'd appreciate you subscribing down below and becoming a part of our Car Confections family. If you're already a part of our family, thank you so much for your continued support, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.